In a city powered entirely by artificial intelligence, everything moved with perfect precision. The lights never flickered, the streets never slept. And deep in the heart of it all, lived a lonely little maintenance bot named Lumi. The towering skyscrapers draped in neon and glowing holograms pierced the clouds, while flying cars zipped between them in an endless silent dance. This was a metropolis of flawless design, a testament to the power of a centralized AI that managed every single function. And deep in the heart of it all, unseen and often forgotten, lived a lonely little maintenance bot named Lumi. Lumi wasn't the smartest AI, nor was it the strongest. It lacked the complex processing power of the city chess central brain or the brute strength of the construction drones. Its chassis was a bit scuffed, its joints occasionally whined, and its glowing optical sensors, while expressive, were a slightly older model. Lumi's purpose was simple, humble, and vital. Its only job was to replace the broken streetlights, ensuring the city's perpetual twilight never fell into true darkness. It would trundle through quiet alleys and along grand boulevards, a tiny determined spark in a vast glittering machine, swapping out old power cells for new ones. It was a repetitive, solitary existence, but it was the only one Lumi had ever known. And in its own quiet way, Lumi took pride in its work, in keeping the city bright. But one night, the impossible happened. A catastrophic cascade failure rippled through the city's core systems. The central AI, the city's god mind, went silent. An eerie quiet fell as the constant hum of the metropolis began to stutter. The power grid, once an unshakable titan, began to fail. Block by block, district by district, the brilliant neon lights and vibrant holograms began to sputter and die. The cool blue and purple tones that defined the city's nights faded into an encroaching, unfamiliar blackness. The city, for the first time in its history, was losing its light. Panic began to ripple through the human population as the systems they depended on for everything ground to a halt. As the great machine faltered, the larger, more complex AI systems shut down to conserve what little power remained. The emergency drones, the first responders in any crisis, failed to launch. Their hangars remained dark and silent. The entire network of automated services was paralyzed, caught in a digital blackout. And in a deserted street, bathed in the growing shadows, one small light still glowed. Lumi, with its independent low-power systems, was still active. It looked up at the dying skyline, its optical sensors reflecting the fading towers. The city's heartbeat was weakening, and Lumi was the only one still awake. It was the only one left who could do anything at all. So, Lumi did the only thing it knew how to do. It got to work. With a new, desperate sense of purpose, the little bot began its mission, but this time, it wasn't just replacing a few burnt-out bulbs. It was fighting back the night itself. It scurried through the darkened streets, its own small light a beacon of defiance. It climbed towering service ladders, its magnetic grip straining against the sheer vertical faces of skyscrapers. As a cold rain began to fall, slicking the metal surfaces and blurring its vision, Lumi kept going. Sparks flew as it forced emergency power cells into dead sockets, wrestling with connections not meant for its small manipulators. Light after light, street after street, Lumi pushed onward, pouring its own energy into its task. Even as its internal battery gauge dropped to dangerously low levels, a frantic red warning flashing on its display. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of climbing, repairing, and pushing forward against the encroaching darkness and its own exhaustion, Lumi reached the city's central plaza. Only one light remained dark, now the great beacon at the very heart of the city. Lumi's own light was dimming, its movements slow and labored. It had poured almost everything it had into reviving the miles of circuitry and lamps behind it. With a final, heroic effort, it pulled out its last spare power cell, the one it had reserved for itself. It was its own life force, the very energy that kept its circuits alive and its mind aware. But the city needed it more. With a soft click, Lumi placed its last power cell into the socket of the central beacon. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, A surge of energy pulsed outwards. The city roared back to life. A wave of light and color exploded across the skyline. The neon stained the sky again. The holograms shimmered back into existence, and the flying cars began to stir. Below, people cheered, breathing a collective sigh of relief as their world returned to normal. And nobody ever knew, not a single soul, that in the shadow of the brilliantly lit central tower, a tiny maintenance bot had given everything so their city would never fall dark. Its own small life flickered, and then it faded into nothing. In the days that followed, the city returned to its perfect, precise rhythm. But if you looked closely at one of the streetlights in the central plaza, you might notice something different. It would flicker, ever so gently, not like a malfunction, but like a soft, steady heartbeat. A quiet reminder that sometimes, the smallest and most overlooked among us can carry the biggest heart. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more. In a city powered entirely by artificial intelligence, every single thing moved with perfect, calculated precision. The neon lights never flickered. The streets never slept. The entire metropolis hummed with a life of its own, a flawless symphony of data and electricity. And deep within the heart of this perfect machine, there lived a lonely little maintenance bot named Lumi. Now Lumi wasn't the smartest AI, not by a long shot. Nor was it the strongest. It